Good evening. In the United States, Democratic and Republican leaders are close to a deal which could end the deadlock over raising the country's borrowing limit. Politicians have until Tuesday to reach an agreement or risk America defaulting on its debts. Well, Margo Thorning is Senior Vice President at the American Council for Capital Formation. She's in our Washington studio and joins me now. Good evening to you. President Obama has very much cited the events at Capitol Hill over recent days as politicians thinking of their parties before the American people. Is that how you view it?
No, I think the American people are very seriously concerned about the size of the projected deficits over the next decade. And I think the debate that we've seen between Democrats and Republicans reflects a very real division about how much spending cuts should be put in place and how much, if any, tax increases. So I think it reflects real concerns, not just politics as usual.
So why did President Obama then say you've got to stop putting your party first and start putting the American people first?
Well, I think to some extent politicians are doing what they do best, which is talk and not necessarily always address in their public comments the substance. But the real problems we face are CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says that deficits will be 100% of GDP. The debt will be 100% of GDP in 2021, and if we don't change our spending trajectory, it will be 150% of GDP by 2030. So we must make appropriate spending cuts, and we must think about ways to reduce what are called tax expenditures. So it's very important that as members of Congress address this problem, they don't gut the capital formation provisions in the tax code, that we make very careful targeted spending cuts and targeted revenue enhancements.
Tough times ahead, though, for the American people. The deal, as we know it, and obviously we don't know all the details yet, is that while the debt ceiling is raised, it means spending cuts must be implemented at a huge figure of around $1 trillion.
Well, there's probably ways that we can make those spending cuts without seriously impacting low and middle income taxpayers, and that's what we have to do. But unless we make meaningful cuts in the near term, the bond markets aren't going to accept the fact that the U.S. will go ahead and get its fiscal house in order. We're going to take a hit from the bond markets if we don't put in place something that they believe will actually be impacted. And I think if Congress and the administration do not put in place near-term spending cuts and, in fact, put them off till after, say, 2016, when the Obama administration won't be in office anymore, they won't believe that we'll really have the will to do it. So it's important for the bond markets and for interest rates and for our overall economic recovery that we make meaningful cuts now.
You couldn't have emphasized better in the last few minutes how important it was for an agreement to be reached at Capitol Hill over how America spends its money and how it can pay its bills. But does it not worry you, and I'm sorry to bang on about the same point, but does it not worry you that we've really seen how significant the influence of the Tea Party is this week and how politics really did get in the way of making a very critical decision for the American economy and the global economy?
Well, I'm not sure that you can blame the Tea Party. They were sent to Washington because of many Americans' concern about high levels of federal spending. And they've been making their case that we need to reduce spending. And August the 2nd is still at least 48 hours off. And I really expect there will be an agreement which will get support from both parties. But the U.S. economy is very weak, and I think most members of Congress know that if they fail to meet the debt ceiling increase target, we risk further uncertainty, which we already have, uncertainty from the health care reform, financial reform, the Dodd-Frank bill, Environmental Protection Agency policies, and now the debt. So the U.S. economy, which grew at only 1.3% in the second quarter of 2011, is fragile. Unemployment is over 9%. Members of Congress know that if they fail in this task, it's going to make our clawing our way back to strong growth much harder.
OK. Margo, we must leave it there. Margo Thorning of the American Council for Capital Formation. Thank you.